Hafa, good evening, and thanks for tuning in to PNC's News First. We're live from the Broadcast Center at Conta. I'm Clint Rogel.
And I'm Janella Carrera. Thanks for joining us. Your top story tonight: in the wake of a guilty verdict against Bishop Anthony Apuron by a Vatican tribunal, many were looking to Guam's Archbishop Michael Burns for answers. But at a news conference today, there was not much more he could offer to explain the sentence further. Here's more. The announcement was made late Friday night, much to the shock of the community, many of whom received the news from the Vatican's press website. At a news conference today, Guam's Archbishop Michael Burns, who replaced former Archbishop Anthony Apuron, read excerpts of the Vatican Tribunal's sentence.
Finding the accused guilty of certain of the accusations and imposing upon the accused the penalties of privation of office and the prohibition of residence in the Archdiocese of Guam.
Privation of office means the removal of his title as the Archbishop of the Archdiocese of Agana, which means his title will revert back to bishop. Although the sentence was clear that Apuron was found guilty, of what allegations he was found guilty is unclear. During his canonical trial, the three surviving victims who accused Apuron of sexual abuse, Roland Sandia, Walter Denton, and Roy Quintanilla, and the mother of Joseph Sonny Kanata, the fourth victim who died over 10 years ago, were deposed, indicating that the charges stemmed from alleged sexual abuse. Archbishop Burns says he did not receive any kind of communication from the Vatican.
I got a phone call just alerting me saying go to this site.
So you didn't get anything personal from the Vatican? You learned it through their...
Right, through the website, yes.
Shortly after the Vatican's announcement, Bishop Apuron released a statement through his legal counsel, attorney Jackie Terlahi, maintaining his innocence and suggesting that he was aware of the charges. Quote, "While I am relieved that the tribunal dismissed the majority of the accusations against me, I have appealed the verdict," his statement read in part. But Terlahi says they are not aware either of which charges were dismissed and which were affirmed. And although Bishop Apuron claims to have appealed the verdict, there is no record of it made available to the public yet. So what would an appeal mean? The Vatican says it would suspend the sentence, but it's not like a traditional appeal. Only the process for the canonical trial can be appealed. The verdict, most experts say, cannot. Does this mean that the actual verdict, the sentence itself, is unappealable?
Again, that's my understanding, but I can't say that with great authority.
Now that the verdict is out, Archbishop Burns says his focus will be on healing and reparation. Bishop Apuron still faces 5 civil sex abuse allegations in federal court. Although Burns could not speak on how the Vatican decision could affect the civil cases in court today, Chief District Court Judge Francis Tedinko Gatewood said a hearing scheduled for tomorrow morning will address that.
In the meantime, we spoke with one of the surviving victims who accused Bishop Apuron of sexual abuse. Roland Sandia was just 15 years old when he says Apuron molested him. He describes the moment he found out about the guilty verdict.
I just got so emotional when I saw the news alert, and I immediately went in and I just shared the news with my wife. We held each other and we cried, but it was the news that we've been waiting for to hear for a long time.
At a news conference today, Archbishop Michael Burns offered a sincere apology to Apuron's victims and all victims of sexual abuse, saying he was issuing it on behalf of the entire Archdiocese of Agana.
I convey my deepest apologies to Mr. Roy Quintanilla, Mr. Walter Denton, Mr. Roland Paul Sandia, and the late Joseph Sonny Kanata for the tremendous damage inflicted upon each of you by now Bishop Apuron and the Archdiocese of Agana. Your families have suffered as well, and I apologize to them too, most certainly to Doris Conception, who stepped forward courageously to speak and lobby on behalf of her son Sonny.
I'm happy that he actually, someone from the Archdiocese actually is showing remorse and is apologizing for everything that happened, because we never got that.
We asked Sandia what he would say to Bishop Apuron in light of the guilty verdict and if he could ever forgive him.
Number one, why did he do it? And why did he run? Why did he hide from me? You know, while he was out there enjoying being the Archbishop, that one of the highest positions on this island, here we are, suffering.
Do you think you could ever find it in your heart to forgive him?
I probably would, you know. I mean, that's the human thing to do, you know. But I would never, ever forget it.
Again, Bishop Apuron continues to maintain his innocence. You can read more online at thepacificnewscenter.com.
In other news, a male individual who calls himself the Big Man is behind bars after he allegedly sexually assaulted an 11-year-old girl as she was about to fall asleep. But this is not the first time he has targeted a minor, according to police. Naren Paulus, also known as Jack Bruce, or Big Man, is accused of a crime which is anything but that of a big man. According to a court complaint, he entered a bedroom where 2 minor girls were sleeping and raped one of them. The victim told police that she heard someone enter the bedroom and she identified the individual as Big Man. The complaint states that Paulus fondled the girl before performing cunnilingus and ultimately raping the child. During this incident, the victim told police she told Paulus to stop, but he did not. It wasn't until the victim began crying loudly that he left the bedroom. The second female minor confirmed what the victim had stated, telling police that she awoke to the sound of Paulus telling the young girl to be quiet and saw him in a push-up position on top of the child. According to court documents, this is not the first time Paulus has attacked a minor. Paulus is currently on probation for the harassment of a 13-year-old girl in a bathroom at the Agate Park. In the rape case, he's facing charges of 2 counts of first-degree criminal sexual conduct. He was booked and confined.
On Friday, Governor Calvo signed a bill into law creating a 1% increase in the business privilege tax, or gross receipts tax, and a 2% sales tax. What kind of effect will this have on consumers and on the economy? We sat down with UOG Professor of Economics, Dr. Roseanne Jones, to find out.
Nobody likes a tax. You know, they just don't like it. They like the freedom of being able to spend what they earn.
UOG Professor of Economics Dr. Roseanne Jones says that there is still a lot that is unknown about how tax increases will affect Guam's economy.
But we do know that it doesn't add economic value or stimulus to the private market when those taxes happen. So there is a downside to taxation, and if it gets too burdensome, you can actually stall your private market economic activity. The consumer has to now spend more for what they want to buy, and the producer or the seller would like to increase the price, but they can't, so they're still getting the same price that they had to pay. And so neither the seller nor the buyer are better off for this tax, and so it actually leaves the marketplace and comes into the government. So there is this dead weight loss of economic activity. It's kind of a draining of monies out of the free market into the government. I think there's always a fear that government will get used to this and then continue to grow government and come back again for the next increase and then the next increase.
However, Dr. Jones says taxes are necessary in order to run a government. The issue is determining how much to tax to fund the government without overburdening the economy. There are some potential positive effects of these tax increases, at least in the short term.
So there's kind of this, in economic terms, a stocking up effect. So we actually see, maybe in the short run, a bit of a stimulus that people start going and buying things that they know aren't going to, that aren't perishable and will last a while, and so, okay, now's the time to buy before this tax goes in.
On April 1st, the business privilege tax, also known as the gross receipts tax, will go up by 1%, from 4% to 5%. This increase will last until the end of this fiscal year, or September 30. Then, after the BPT goes back to 4%, a 2% sales tax will kick in on October 1st, or the beginning of the next fiscal year. Dr. Jones says this 2% sales tax is on the low end of sales taxes nationwide.
They can have upwards of 6, 7, 8% sales tax. And it's a tax on consumption. So in some sense, what they're trying to do is saying, well, this is a discretionary kind of tax. You can avoid it by not consuming so much.
However, Dr. Jones says this sales tax will probably be easier for those with higher incomes to swallow.
While perhaps upper income levels can avoid some of the tax by doing without, or it doesn't take as much money. 2% is not that much money to a high income household, but it begins to add up to the lower income households.
And those on food stamps or the SNAP program will have to pay the sales tax out of pocket.
The food stamp program, the SNAP program, does not compensate for a sales tax.
Dr. Jones says a lot of the effects are still unknown, like whether there will be a decline in spending by tourists or how much the tax will affect consumer spending, especially for those with lower incomes.
The police tracked down a man who allegedly drew a gun on a woman following an altercation on the road. But when officers located the individual, they found more than just an illegal weapon. According to court documents, Sean Anthony Akininuk got into an altercation with a female motorist, exited his vehicle, and pointed a semi-automatic handgun at her while on Route 16 by the Micronesia Mall. The victim contacted police and provided a description of the vehicle, which helped police locate Akininuk in the parking lot of Pyology less than 30 minutes later. Police say that a search of the vehicle not only revealed the gun, but also 12 full metal jacket bullets, a marijuana cigarette, 24 resealable baggies, and 4 other individuals, 3 of whom were minors. Court documents state that Akininuk admitted to obtaining the gun from an unidentified Chuukese male in exchange for methamphetamine. The gun was identified as a 9mm Sig Sauer, which had been reported stolen from a vehicle in 2011. According to court documents, Akininuk is not allowed to possess a firearm as he was convicted in 2008 of criminal sexual conduct. In this case, he has been charged with possession of a Schedule II controlled substance, possession with intent to deliver, possession of a firearm without a firearms ID, possession of an unregistered gun, theft by receiving, assault, and reckless conduct. He was booked and confined.
In 2 separate cases in Superior Court, the defendants appear to blame their alleged criminal actions on the drug ice. Paranoia and delusion brought on by smoking methamphetamine appear to characterize these 2 cases, which have landed the defendants in jail. In the first case, Eileen Camille Mangarero allegedly attempted to harm herself and her son by walking out onto Route 15. According to court documents, Mangarero was eating barbecue chicken with friends and family when she suddenly blurted out saying, quote, "They are feeding me human meat," end quote. She then allegedly grabbed her son and ran out into the roadway. When police arrived, she admitted to police saying, quote, "Sorry, officer, I just smoked ice and I think my husband is having an affair with my mully, so I went crazy and wanted to hurt myself and my son since my husband hates me," end quote. The child was retrieved by officers and turned over to the defendant's godmother. Mangarero was charged with assault on a police officer, family violence, and child abuse. The next case involves a man who police say stole a rental car 1 month ago. Court documents state that in February, a Mazda 3 was stolen from the Westin Hotel parking lot in Tumon, but it wasn't until March 16th that authorities were able to locate the vehicle and apprehend the suspect, identified as Peter Tomas Uggan. The complaint states that an employee from the rental car company spotted the vehicle and followed it to a residence in Dededo. Police officers were able to confirm that the vehicle matched the description of the reported stolen vehicle. And according to police, Uggan admitted to taking the vehicle because, quote, "When he is using meth, he feels that someone is telling him to do something," end quote. He has been charged with theft of a motor vehicle. He was booked and confined. All right, that's it for News First from all of us here at PNC. Thanks for watching. Stay Maoli.
And have a good night.